Another reality that I have the privilege of understanding here in the Portland area is how certain areas where there's a history of debauchery, where there's a history of slavery, where there's a history of drug addiction, alcohol addiction, where there's a history of prostitution or women being trafficked in from other locations to basically be a fuck doll for a sweaty logger, miner, or a sailor. See, this was the initial Portland reality that the Portland plutocracy, the New Englanders and the others that came in and created this, dark circus of sorts in the late 19th century of this region, cutting into Mother Nature, creating a dark imprint, and beginning the process of rape over nature, over environment, and the energy construct forever changing, not to mention the death of the Native Americans, not to make anyone feel guilty about anything that I just mentioned. But reality is reality. And I have identified a link between the past of Portland, certain places in Portland, where when people do take a drink and let those spirits into their body, strange shit takes place. Shit that looks like possession. Shit that looks like it's straight out of The Exorcist or some weird 1980s horror flick. It also seems that during solar maximum that we see an increase in this paranormal supernatural activity. And there's a reason they call it spirits. I've already identified links between more people drinking, more people shooting dope, and an increase in solar flares or the solar maximum period, which is several years, on average every 11 years. I know this is new information to some of you. I'm still going to talk about it on my YouTube channel, regardless of where you're at with this, because I need to refine how I share this information over time, because it is real. The links between the past and certain areas in the present, the vibrational construct of suffering, of people being someone else's slave, either in a sexual sense or a work sense. I also worked down in that area for years, in the Old Town, Chinatown area, as a busser, and dealt with a lot of negative energy at that environment. A lot of people that work in that environment are really fucked up. A lot of you are watching this YouTube channel from other places. You have no idea what I'm talking about, but you have similar places in your own towns that you might be able to identify where there's always been problems, always been prostitution, areas where the same shit was happening 150 years ago. There's something to that. There's something to that. And I felt for years that spirits screaming for just another drink are floating around in the air of Portland. And in a world where you hear about demons and ghosts and angels, it is not far-fetched when you hear about ghost hunters, for crying out loud. This is on mainstream TV. What I'm doing is speaking on behalf of my intuition. Thank you very much. I'm not citing a TV show. I'm speaking from Alex Ansari's heart. And that there are spirits here in Portland that when they were alive, they suffered the entire time, and some of them died violent deaths or spent most of their life as a hooker or an alcoholic. Okay? A lot of those spirits have not been removed from the earth and are earthbound and hang around sea-level cities like Portland, Oregon. While I was in Colorado, I thought a lot about how much space and freedom I felt, my aura felt, being at higher elevation, intuitively knowing there's a certain amount of lost souls that are stuck at sea elevation. There's something about the higher elevations. You get away from some of those spirits. There's deeper reflection that takes place at some of those higher elevations. There's a change in oxygen. There's a spiritual shift. And the women at the higher elevations, they may have the consciousness, some of them, of an average zombie, but there's something about their physical aura that is incredibly sexy. I found that in Colorado. Even if, their minds are somewhere else, there's something about the physical human biological computer being at higher elevation and its effect on our energy field. Well, down here in Portland, this land of sadness that I somehow decided to return to, it is a vortex of suffering today. Child sex trafficking, Portland, Oregon, #1. Sex clubs per capita, porno stores, place where you buy your dirty magazines, and the most extreme forms of propaganda, pornography that you can even imagine, Portland, Oregon, #1 today. Portland, Oregon, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, places where people basically trade one addiction for another and start following a whole new religion that in many cases is lacking genuine spiritual concepts today. AA, you can find it, #1, #1 city for meetings per capita, Portland, Oregon, USA Today. Are we able to start making a connection here? Are we able to start seeing how these things are linked together? Homelessness, drug addiction, alcoholism, sex addiction, child rape, sexual assault. I'm not trying to get dark here. I'm trying to show you a wheel of human suffering. I'm trying to show you what I see. I'm trying to show you what I see right now. What I see is a land that has been impacted by the activities of past generations. And what I feel is that many of those souls involved in that suffering, many of them were raped, in fact, that just never could say no. No, there's 20 customers, man. You need to serve all 20 customers. You came here to work, and work is what you're going to do. There is a world of suffering that took place in the city of my birth. And I'll tell you what, I live in a world where people tell me I'm crazy because I can perceive this. When I know I live in a world where people are watching the ghost hunters, in a world where people talk about karma on a regular basis, and so many other things, I know that I'm not crazy. I know that I'm hitting on a nerve, and it makes people feel uncomfortable that would like to believe that certain spirits have been removed from the planet, that they're no longer earthbound, that we've ascended to a new fourth dimension, that we've already experienced the shift in consciousness, that this is heaven. And I don't feel that at all. I will save a lot of those points for another video, but I don't believe that Earth is heaven. It's more or less, it almost seems to have a purgatory vibe to it. Some of us can go deeper down, or some of us can liberate ourselves from this type of a realm. There's choice here. It's called free will. Duality exists for a reason. What reality do you want to create? How do you want to evolve your soul? Or do you want to, like, literally flush your soul down the toilet and allow yourself to be harvested by the dark ones that are basically allowed to operate here in this domain? Again, there's a reason why we're here and that we're being tested. And there's options for our way out. I don't have all the answers, but what I can feel is a lot of those souls that suffered here and were trafficked here and hurt people here, it's like they're still, the energy imprint is still here in some way. Even if those souls may be already incarnated or in a heaven or hell reality. I don't know exactly how this ghosting works, but the ghost imprints of days on old are still here. I can even feel it in certain neighborhoods, including this one, where I know that people have been shot and murdered here in the past, where bad things have happened, where there's pain and suffering around a house, where the whole house has nothing but a vibratory feeling of fear and a sense of doom. And a lot of Portland has that vibe, and it has affected human relationships, and I think it's played a part. A lot of that human suffering and early lust and alcoholism, Portland has, and this is well known, you don't have to be really into the scene to be aware of it. Give me a break, okay? Knowing social trends and maybe dating a few people can give someone a glimpse into generally how a city is. Generally, Portland's kind of a freaky city on the sexual side. On the BDSM side, the groups, the meetups, the female, average female sex drive, the average male sex drive, it's a little different, I feel, here. And I actually, it's the point where I'm having dreams constantly about the river. There is a link between, because I mentioned the early Portland settlement, and how the things, the pain and suffering, the prostitution, alcoholism, and men being shanghaied, kidnapped, all that activity, all that suffering has impacted the current generation. The other, it's a river of blackness. It's a river of darkness, the Willamette River. It has been so polluted for so long, and people think that they can just say that we're a green city. But in fact, the things that have been done to that river are unspeakable. And there's been so much money that's been taken from the taxpayers to supposedly build us a better sewer network. And there's so much money laundering that's actually occurred out of the Portland Water Bureau. The whole conversation of water in Portland, the Water Bureau, the rivers, is one of the most corrupt conversations you can have, period. You want to see New World Order, reptilian-like thinking? You look at the history of how Portlanders have treated the water supply and how the local government has stolen countless amounts of money through the sewer and water projects. It's a huge topic and one worthy of meditation and reflection. Fuck New World Order. Look at local Portland government over the years. Holy fuck. Excuse my language. I feel it's even in my dreams. It's like an image. It's becoming clear in my mind. Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad, according to Morpheus in the Matrix. Where I can see a link between our polluted river and sick, twisted, mentally ill Portlanders. And so I place this down before you, this bit of knowledge. You can take a look at it and consider how the actions of the past in certain areas and blocks and cities, how they lived, how they treated each other, how it impacts future generations. That there's a link between the past, present, and future generations. I feel this in more than one way. In several different ways, I feel this, as I feel the pain and suffering in the general air of Portland, and that general air of arrogance that also exists in certain Portlanders that think that their Darwinistic, their social Darwin survival, that their natural order, only the strong, the charming, the beautiful can survive. A lot of that arrogant Portland behavior that some of you see, the hipsterism, that is coming from the imbalance. People thinking they have to act a certain way or, have their flowers a certain color, their feathers, even though there's a certain aspect of nature where, animals are showing off the beauty of their feathers. Take a look at that. There's a certain human arrogance that also comes from nature, and not all of nature is of the light. This world definitely has a duality aspect to it. I've gone on for well over 13 minutes. Hope this is some information for some people that may appreciate it.